They were just a family on vacation until the flashing lights proved justice wears a different color depending on who you are. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The Washington family drives along the coastal highway of Cedar Point, a picturesque beach town they've chosen for their much-needed week-long vacation. Marcus Washington sits behind the wheel, a disciplined man with observant eyes that miss nothing, a professional habit from his 15 years with the FBI. Beside him, his wife Danielle checks their rental confirmation on her phone while their children, Tyler, 16, and Amara, 12, watch the scenery unfold through the windows. "Almost there," Marcus announces, his voice carrying the relief of someone who's been driving for 6 hours straight. 20 minutes to the rental house. Danielle reaches over and squeezes his hand. "This week is going to be perfect. No cases, no emergencies, just family time." In the rearview mirror, Marcus notices a police cruiser that has been behind them for the past few miles. His training makes him instinctively aware of such details, but he dismisses the thought. They're on vacation. No need for hypervigilance now. The blue and red lights flash suddenly behind them, the siren giving a short whoop. Marcus checks his speedometer. He's going exactly the speed limit. Nevertheless, he signals and pulls over carefully onto the shoulder. "Dad, what's happening?" Amara asks from the back seat. "Just routine, honey." "Nothing to worry about," Marcus replies calmly, though he exchanges a knowing glance with Danielle. Two officers approach the vehicle. Officer Brennan, a weathered white man in his 50s with cold eyes, and Officer Rodriguez, younger and visibly uncomfortable. Brennan taps on the window with his flashlight despite the bright afternoon sun. Marcus rolls down his window. "Good afternoon, officer." "License and registration?" Brennan demands without preamble or explanation for the stop. "May I ask why I'm being pulled over, sir?" Marcus inquires politely. Brennan's expression hardens. "License and registration first. Then we'll get to questions." Within minutes, what should have been a routine stop deteriorates. Marcus and Danielle are ordered out of the vehicle while the children watch in growing fear. When Marcus calmly asks again for the reason behind the stop, Officer Brennan claims their rental car matches a description of a vehicle involved in a reported drug trafficking operation. "We've had reports of narcotics moving through this area," Brennan states flatly. "Your vehicle fits the description." "This is a standard rental SUV," Danielle points out. "There must be hundreds like it." "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step back," Brennan warns. When Marcus begins to explain they're simply on vacation, Brennan cuts him off. "Sir, keep your hands where I can see them and turn around." "Officer, my children are in the car." "Turn around now," Brennan shouts, hand moving to his holster. The situation escalates as Brennan forces Marcus against the vehicle, while Rodriguez reluctantly orders Danielle to step aside. The children are told to exit the car, Amara now in tears, as Tyler tries to comfort her while maintaining his composure. "This is completely unnecessary," Marcus states calmly, though anger edges his voice. "We're just a family on vacation." "Yeah, we've heard that before," Brennan mutters, roughly handcuffing Marcus. "We'll just see what we find in your vehicle." A search of the car begins while Marcus remains handcuffed beside the cruiser. Danielle stands with the children, trying to reassure them while her own indignation builds. "You have no probable cause for this search," she states firmly, her background as a civil rights attorney evident in her precise language. "Ma'am, we have reasonable suspicion, which is all we need," Brennan replies dismissively. "Unless you want to join your husband in cuffs, I suggest you stay quiet." As a third police car arrives on scene, Marcus decides it's time to reveal his identity. "Officer, my credentials are in my wallet. I'm a supervisory special agent with the FBI." Brennan scoffs. "Sure you are. Check my ID," Marcus insists. "Call it in if you need to verify." Rodriguez, increasingly uncomfortable with the situation, retrieves Marcus's wallet and finds his FBI badge and ID. Brennan, Rodriguez says quietly, showing him the badge. Brennan's expression shifts microscopically. Could be fake. Then call it in, Marcus suggests calmly. My supervisor is Assistant Director Kathleen Morrison in the Washington field office. I'd be happy to provide her number. The atmosphere changes dramatically when verification comes. Through. Marcus Washington is indeed a high-ranking FBI agent specializing in civil rights violations and police misconduct. The local police captain arrives, profusely apologetic. This is completely unacceptable, the captain says, personally removing Marcus's handcuffs. Agent Washington, I cannot apologize enough. Captain, Marcus responds evenly. What happened here today isn't about my badge. It's about a family, any family, being profiled and harassed without cause. My children just watched their parents being treated like criminals while on vacation. Danielle steps forward. We'll be filing a formal complaint, and as an attorney, I can tell you there was no legal basis for this stop or search. In the aftermath, Marcus sits with his shaken family at a local diner. They've decided to continue their vacation rather than let the incident ruin their time together, though the mood has irrevocably changed. I'm sorry you had to see that, Marcus tells his children, but I also want you to understand what happened and why it's wrong. Would they have done that if we weren't black? Tyler asks directly. Marcus and Danielle exchange glances before Marcus answers honestly. Probably not, and that's exactly why I do the work I do. Later that evening, Marcus makes a call to his office. I need a civil rights investigation opened into the Cedar Point Police Department. I just experienced firsthand what the complaints have been alleging. His superior responds, We've been building a case. Your testimony might be what we need to move forward. 6 months have passed since the Washington family's traumatic encounter on what should have been the start of a peaceful vacation. The morning light filters through the blinds of their suburban Washington, D.C. home as Marcus Washington sits at the kitchen island, reviewing case files while sipping his coffee. The incident in Cedar Point hasn't faded from memory. Instead, it has become a catalyst for significant change, both personally and professionally for the Washington family. The kitchen television quietly broadcasts the morning news in the background. Marcus glances up from his papers when he hears the words, Cedar Point Police Department, mentioned by the anchor. Danielle enters from the hallway, tying her robe as she increases the volume. Their children, Tyler and Amara, drawn by their parents. Sudden interest, join them in the kitchen, still in their pajamas despite it being a Saturday morning when teenagers typically sleep until noon. The Department of Justice has announced expanded investigations into the Cedar Point Police Department following multiple complaints of racial profiling and civil rights violations, the anchor states professionally. This comes after a high-profile incident involving an FBI agent and his family last summer, which sparked national attention and renewed discussions about policing practices in tourist destinations. The screen shows footage of Officer Brennan being escorted from the police station, his face a mask of defiance despite the circumstances. The anchor continues. Officer James Brennan, a 20-year veteran of the force, has been suspended without pay pending the results of both internal and federal investigations. Sources close to the department suggest termination proceedings have already begun. Amara leans against her father's shoulder. That's him, isn't it? The one who handcuffed you. Marcus nods, wrapping an arm around his daughter. Yes, that's him. But this is about more than just one officer. This is about changing a system. The news segment shifts to show community protests in Cedar Point. Peaceful gatherings of local residents and civil rights organizations holding signs that read, Police the Police and Justice for All Travelers. The camera pans to interviews with local black residents sharing similar experiences of being stopped without cause while driving through town. What they did to Agent Washington's family happens to us all the time. one elderly resident explains to the reporter. The difference is, most of us don't have FBI badges to protect us. Tyler, who has been unusually quiet since the incident, finally speaks. So they're only doing something because you're FBI? What about everyone else who doesn't have that kind of protection? Danielle, who has been actively involved in the legal aspects of the case, answers before Marcus can. That's not entirely true, Tyler. Your father's position certainly brought attention to the issue, but the investigation revealed that there have been dozens of similar complaints filed over the years. They were systematically ignored or buried. What happened to us was the tipping point, not the sole reason. Marcus nods in agreement. Your mother's right. My badge didn't make what happened to us more important than what happened to others, but it did make it harder for the department to dismiss. Sometimes change needs a catalyst, something that forces people who've been looking away to finally look. The news continues, showing Cedar Point's City Council in emergency session, voting unanimously to implement comprehensive reforms in the police department. The reforms include mandatory body cameras, civilian oversight committees, and extensive bias training for all officers. The segment concludes with the announcement that a nationwide search for a new police chief is underway, with an emphasis on candidates experienced in community-oriented policing and departmental reform. As the family processes this information, Marcus's phone rings. The caller ID displays Cedar Point Mayor's office. He answers, putting it on speaker so the family can hear. Agent Washington, this is Mayor Patricia Galloway from Cedar Point. I hope I'm not calling too early. Not at all, Mayor. My family and I were just watching the news about the developments in Cedar Point. That's actually why I'm calling. I wanted you to hear this from me personally before the public announcement this afternoon. We've selected our new police chief, and she'll be starting next month. Her name is Chief Elaine Torres, and she comes to us from Oakland, where she led one of the most successful police reform initiatives in the country. Marcus exchanges glances with Danielle, who nods encouragingly. That sounds promising, Mayor. I'm glad to hear the city is taking concrete steps toward change. More than steps, Agent Washington. We're committed to a complete overhaul of our approach to policing. Chief Torres specifically asked me to reach out to you. She would like to personally invite you to speak at our Community Reconciliation Forum next month. Your experience, both as a victim of profiling and as an FBI civil rights investigator, could provide valuable perspective as we rebuild trust between our police department and the communities they serve. The invitation hangs in the air as Marcus looks at each member of his family. This is no longer just his decision. What happened on that highway happened to all of them. Amara gives a small nod, her young face showing a maturity beyond her years. Tyler, after a moment's hesitation, nods as well, though his eyes still hold the wariness that has developed since the incident. Danielle squeezes Marcus's hand in support. I'll be there, Marcus finally responds. Not because I'm an FBI agent, but because I'm a father who wants his children to grow up in a world where they're judged by their character, not their color. Thank you, Agent Washington. Chief Torres will be in touch with the details, and please extend the invitation to your entire family. Their perspectives are equally valuable in this conversation. After the call ends, the family remains in thoughtful silence until Amara speaks up. I want to go too, Dad. I want to tell them how it felt to watch them put you in handcuffs. Tyler nods in agreement. Me too. If things are really going to change, they need to hear from kids like us who have to grow up seeing this stuff. The following weeks bring significant developments. Marcus is assigned as the FBI liaison to the Cedar Point investigation, turning what began as a personal trauma into a professional mission. Danielle, leveraging her expertise as a civil rights attorney, volunteers to help review and strengthen the department's new policies on stops, searches, and community engagement. The Washington family's dining room transforms into an impromptu war room for justice reform, with case files, legal precedents, and policy documents spread across the table most evenings. A month later, the Washingtons return to Cedar Point, this time not as vacationers, but as catalysts for change. The community center is packed with residents, officers, city officials, and media as the reconciliation forum begins. Chief Torres, a commanding woman with compassionate eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, introduces Marcus to a mixed reception. Some applause, some evident discomfort from officers in attendance. Marcus approaches the podium, his family seated in the front row. He looks out at the audience, taking in the diverse faces looking back at him. Among them sits Officer Rodriguez, who approaches Marcus before the forum begins. "I wanted to apologize," Rodriguez says quietly. "I knew what was happening that day. Wasn't right, but I didn't stop it. I was following orders, but that's no excuse." Marcus studies the young officer. "No, it isn't. But what matters now is what you do with that knowledge going forward. Will you be part of the problem or part of the solution?" Rodriguez straightens his posture. "I've requested to be part of the community liaison team under the new structure. I grew up here, and I know we can do better." As Marcus begins his address, he speaks not from prepared notes, but from the heart. "What happened to my family last summer wasn't unique or exceptional. The only exceptional thing was that I had a badge that forced people to listen. But every person deserves that same respect and consideration, badge or no badge." He recounts the incident in detail, not sparing the emotions. The fear in his children's eyes, the humiliation of being handcuffed in front of them, the helplessness despite his professional standing. Throughout his speech, several officers shift uncomfortably in their seats, but others listen intently, seemingly genuinely engaged with his perspective. "Policing isn't about power," Marcus continues. "It's about service and protection. When that relationship becomes adversarial, when certain communities are viewed as inherently suspicious, the fundamental trust necessary for effective law enforcement breaks down." The forum continues with other speakers, local residents sharing similar experiences, police officers committed to change, and community leaders offering pathways forward. Chief Torres outlines her comprehensive reform plan, emphasizing accountability, transparency, and community involvement. The evening concludes with the announcement of a civilian oversight committee that will include both Tyler and Amara as youth representatives, giving them a voice in the reforms that will shape their generation's relationship with law enforcement. Marcus watches with pride as his children step into roles as change-makers rather than remaining victims of circumstance. Later that night, as the Washington family walks along the same beach they never got to enjoy on their aborted vacation, Marcus reflects on the journey that brought them back to Cedar Point under such different circumstances. "Do you think anything will really change?" Tyler asks, skipping stones into the moonlit water. "Change doesn't happen overnight," Marcus replies. "Honestly. But yes, I do believe things will change, not just here but elsewhere too. This case has received national attention. Other departments are watching." Danielle joins the conversation. "Real change happens one department at a time, one policy at a time, one officer at a time, and one family at a time," Amara adds, slipping her hand into her father's. As they stand together looking out at the horizon, Marcus realizes that while they cannot erase what happened, they have transformed their trauma into purpose. The Washington family's vacation may have been ruined, but in its place, they found a mission that transcends their personal experience, a commitment to ensuring that other families might drive through Cedar Point and countless other towns across America without fear, regardless of the color of their skin. The following morning, before leaving Cedar Point, the family decides to do what they originally came for: enjoy the beach together. As they spread their towels on the sand, a patrol car pulls into the parking lot. The family tenses instinctively, but the officer who emerges simply waves and continues her patrol, treating them as she would any other family enjoying a day at the beach. It's a small moment, but in it lies the promise of what could be, what should be, normal for everyone. "One step at a time," Marcus whispers, watching his children finally relax enough to run toward the waves, their laughter carrying across the beach like a testament to resilience and hope.